Begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop, where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion, that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. As a wise friend and fierce defender, we advocate for better health, financial security, and stronger communities. AARP, join us in making a difference.
Hello. Welcome back to Stay Strong, Stay Sharp, Functional Strategies for Thriving in Midlife and Beyond. I would love to take a moment to welcome everybody to episode 3. For those of you who are joining us live tonight, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I always like to see how far this community reaches. And while we go through today's topic, feel free to share your thoughts or your questions along the way. This series is meant to be interactive, so if something clicks or if you've experienced it yourself, let us know in the chat. I'm Rosemary Achola, nurse practitioner, functional medicine provider, and founder of Integrative Wellness, where we help people who are tired of being told everything looks fine, but are still feeling far from their best. A quick recap from episode 1 last week. We talked about the foundations of functional medicine, looking at the why behind your symptoms, not just the what. And then in episode 2, we explored inflammation and how it quietly affects everything from your joints to your mood. Now, remember how we said inflammation can look like irritability or forgetfulness, even a little bit of brain fog and fatigue. Well, today we're going to talk about one of the biggest drivers of that inflammation. And honestly, it's one of my favorite topics, the gut. Your gut is so much more than digestion. It's your foundation for energy and immunity and mood. If you've ever said to yourself, I'm eating healthy, but my stomach hates me, or everything I eat seems to cause bloating. I've had every test and there's nothing wrong, but I know something is off. Then this is for you. And just a quick reminder, everything shared here is for educational purposes. It's not a substitute for personal medical advice. I'm not diagnosing or treating any specific medical conditions, and I always recommend talking to your healthcare provider before making changes in your health routine. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why your gut symptoms can happen even when your tests look normal, the everyday habits that can throw your gut off balance, and a few simple steps that you can start this week to feel better from the inside out. I would love to start by acknowledging something very important. There is a big difference between nothing is wrong and everything is working well. I often hear people say things like, I have had every test, colonoscopy, endoscopy, stool test, and everything came back normal. Or they would say, I was told that it's probably IBS and just to watch what I eat. What this really means is I still don't feel well and I'm looking for answers. Because the thing is, even though tests don't show disease, the body can still be out of balance. And that's where functional medicine shines, by helping you understand what's actually happening beneath the surface so you can start to feel better from the inside out. Your digestion may be sluggish, your microbiome might be out of balance, your stress hormones might even slow things down. Those are real physical symptoms, not just in your head. And that's the difference between disease and dysfunction. Functional medicine lives right in that space, that gray area between fine and well. Now, building on what we covered last week about the gut-brain connection, those constant signals, your brain and your gut sending back and forth to each other, let's look at how that communication begins even before the food hits your plate. Your gut is a full body operation. It starts working even before you take your first bite. Digestion begins with your senses. You see food, you smell it, and your brain tells your stomach, all right, get ready. Things are about to start happening. Saliva starts to flow, stomach acid rises, and your enzymes are lining up ready to go. But if you're eating while distracted or stressed, driving, even scrolling, your brain has a hard time sending those clear messages. So your body is like, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, we're eating now. So you can end up bloated, feeling really full really early, gassy, even after a healthy meal. So a quick question for you guys out there. Has anybody ever realized halfway through their meal that they actually haven't even tasted their food? Yes? Mark it in the chat if you agree, or this has ever happened to you. I once had a patient in her 60s who swore she had a food allergy because she was bloated after everything. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can relate to this. Something that you used to be able to eat, but now your stomach can't tolerate it. Give me a thumbs up if this sounds familiar. Now, there are several reasons why that could be. In her case, it turned out that her main issue was not the food. It was actually how she was eating it. She ate while answering emails, half stressed, half rushing. And once we slowed down and practiced eating hygiene, her bloating cut in half within 2 weeks. Now, we talked about speed and how that can affect your digestion. Now, let's talk about what else can throw your gut off balance. There's 5 things I'm going to touch on today. The first thing is processed foods and sugar. I know I said it. Our gut bacteria thrive on fiber and whole foods. Now imagine your gut is like a garden. Too many processed foods and artificial sweeteners or sugar, weeds take over because processed foods, they feed the weeds instead of the flowers. You may feel bloated or sluggish, notice that your energy crashes even after an hour of eating. Now, the second thing is medications and antibiotics. Antibiotics are life-saving and often necessary, but they don't discriminate. They wipe out both the harmful and the beneficial bacteria in your gut. Even common medications like acid reducers or pain relievers, they can influence digestion over time. For example, reflux medications can lower stomach acid, which can make it harder for you to absorb nutrients properly and break food down. The key is understanding how these medications might impact your gut and support your body while using them. When we protect and rebuild the gut alongside necessary treatments, we often see better energy, better digestion, and overall wellness. So number 3 on the disruptor scale, stress. By now, we've talked about this gut-brain connection and how they're in constant conversation. So we understand that stress does affect our gut. When you're under stress from caregiving or work, loss, even daily worry, your body reroutes blood flow away from digestion. That's one reason why stress can cause diarrhea or constipation, even cravings. Your gut and your brain are trying to self-soothe. Does anybody else notice that stress hits their stomach first? Give me a thumbs up if you can relate. Number 4, sleep. When we sleep, our gut repairs. Think of your gut lining like cheesecloth, selective and protective. Without good sleep, it starts looking like Swiss cheese. Things get through it that shouldn't, and inflammation increases. Have you ever noticed that after a bad night's sleep, you crave sugars or caffeine? That's your gut and your hormones saying, help, I need some help. And number 5, aging. As we age, digestion naturally slows. Why? We make less stomach acid and fewer enzymes. That's why constipation and reflux can become more common. Your system just needs more support. Has anybody noticed digestion feeling different in the last 5 to 10 years? If so, you're not imagining it. So now we talked about 5 disruptors that can throw your gut off balance. Well, then how can we support it? That's what we're going to talk about now. Because your gut is resilient. You don't need a 15 or 20 step plan. You just need consistent habits. And here are 5 things that can really make a difference. Number 1, you want to eat for your gut. What does that even mean? Cook your vegetables. Warmth helps digestion. Add fiber gradually. Focus on color and variety. Include fermented foods if you can tolerate it. Usually, if you don't eat fermented foods, less is best when starting. Number 2, slow down to speed up. Let's play a little game. If you had to guess how many times you should chew before swallowing your food, what would you say? Give me a number. Go ahead, type it in. Mhm, mhm. The winners are 20 to 30 times before swallowing. 20 to 30 times. Chewing is the cheapest digestive aid there is. It signals your body that it's safe and that it's ready to digest. Number 3, move to improve. Your gut loves movement. Even a short walk after meals can reduce bloating and help regularity. And the 4th thing that you can do is manage your stress response. Before eating, try 1 minute of deep breathing. You want to inhale for a count of 4 and then exhale for a count of 6. This helps calm your mind and it creates a calm belly, another signal to your body that says we are getting ready to digest and do some work. And the 5th thing that you can do is keeping your rhythm. Your gut thrives on consistency. Try to eat around the same time each day and give your body breaks in between meals. You've probably noticed that I've mentioned fast eating quite a few times tonight, and that's not by accident. Because for so many of us, that is where it all begins. We eat on the go, between calls or emails, standing at the counter, or scrolling on our phones. Not because we don't care about our health, but because life is busy. And over time, our bodies forget what it feels like to actually eat in a calm and connected state. Now, I get it because I've been there. When I worked in the intensive care unit, I could eat a full meal in 5 minutes flat and be back at the patient's bedside before I even realized what I had eaten for lunch. And that habit didn't necessarily stop when life slowed down. Even at home, I would find myself sometimes standing in the kitchen, eating fast, even though I had nowhere to go. It took a long time for me to realize my body was still living in this hurried mode, even when my schedule wasn't. So if that sounds like you, always in motion, even when you're standing still, here's something simple. Don't overhaul your diet and don't aim for perfection. Just start noticing. Because awareness is where real change begins. When you slow down enough to notice how you're eating, how you're feeling after every meal, what patterns keep repeating, you start gathering clues your body has been giving you all along. This isn't about being strict or tracking every bite. It's about curiosity and seeing your body as a partner that's trying to communicate with you, not something that's working against you. So instead of rushing to fix things, we're going to start by observing, and that alone can shift your digestion, your stress levels, and even your relationship with food. Here is how I would suggest starting. Over the next several days to even really weeks, if you'd like, just jot down 3 simple things. What you ate or drank, how your gut felt afterward, bloated, energized, neutral, and how your mood felt that day, calm, anxious, tired, light. Then zoom out, look for patterns. How much of what you eat is processed versus fresh? Are you drinking enough water? Do your symptoms show up on stressful days? Learning to decode signals and understand what your body's been trying to tell you. Awareness is a strong foundation in functional medicine. It's information, not interrogation. When you write things down, patterns appear. Maybe you notice bloating that happens when you skip breakfast. Or maybe your mood dips on days you don't hydrate. That's your body talking. I had a client who told me that she did not realize how much of her children's meals she was finishing after dinner, standing up while cleaning up the kitchen. Now, you can absolutely jot down this information in a notebook or in an app on your phone. If you'd prefer something a little bit more structured, we've provided a simple tracker for you right here in the chat. It's designed to help you start connecting the dots. Nothing fancy, just quick check-ins. In the morning, you start with an assessment of how you feel and how you slept. And then for the rest of the day, you write down your meals on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you will see areas for your gut and your mood, and check off how you feel after you ate that meal. In the evening time, take a minute to reflect. And there's also a section where you can notice any patterns or surprises. The goal is not to be perfect, it's to become more aware. Whether you use a notebook, your phone, or the tracker we've shared, just start noticing the clues that your body's giving you. You might be surprised by what you discover once it's written down. And that's really what this next part is all about. Learning to decode those signals and understand what your body's been trying to tell you. Now, out of the several ways we discussed about getting your digestion back in balance, what do you think is one thing you can try this week? I'll give you 3 options. Slowing down, chewing more, or tracking what you notice. Pick one and drop it in the chat. We're going to circle back to it during our Q&A. Everything that we have covered tonight sets the stage for our next conversation. On Thursday, we'll build on this and talk about how your daily rhythms, stress, and sleep patterns tie into your energy, blood sugar, and metabolism. So what you're practicing this week, that awareness piece, it'll give you a head start. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you've already completed a survey for episodes 1 and 2, your feedback is truly appreciated. It's what keeps this program going. And you guessed it, another one is on the way. Stay right where you are. We're entering our Q&A live, and I'd love to hear your questions and comments.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you can see me yet. Welcome, welcome. Oh, there I am. That always scares me. Hi, happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining. Loving the interaction in the chat. I have you pulled over to the side. And I'm looking at what we're going to be doing this week. We have quite a bit of people who will be slowing down, which is great, and chewing more. You know, who would have thought? Who would have thought? Let me see. Let's see. I'm going to start answering some questions. So please bring your questions in. I know that I answered the one about the fermented foods and certain foods to try if you don't usually take fermented foods into your diet. Pickles, but the refrigerated kind, not the ones that sit on the shelf. Those ones are the ones that have all the good enzymes in there. So the pickles could be one. Sauerkraut, if you enjoy some sauerkraut. Kombucha as well is good for fermented or fermentation. With kombucha, you have to be careful because some brands do have a lot more sugar than others. Same thing with the yogurt. Somebody had mentioned that there's a kefir that had a lot of sugar, but there's some that are plain as well. And kimchi is always a great one. Whatever fermented foods that you want to try, you literally 1 serving a day, every other day, just to sort of get your body used to it, especially if you don't eat it all that much. Hold on, let me go into the chat. Now, I didn't mention it in the video, but I do have a Facebook group. So if I can't get through everybody's questions today, please bring them in the group where we can continue this discussion. And we'll be able to drop the link for joining the Facebook group in the chat. Okay, so let's see. Let me see. Can you really improve your gut health without taking a bunch of pills or special diets? You really can. I promise you. And I love the gut. And a lot of it has to do with what we're putting into our bodies and the state of our bodies are in when we're taking that food in. Like I mentioned, stress or fast eating. But if you're eating food that came from the earth or roamed the earth, there's less that your body has to figure out what to do with it, meaning there's no extra chemicals, no extra preservatives, but really cleaning up what you're putting into your body can really help with your gut. No worries. All right. Adam, sorry I came in late. What were the first three disruptors? The first, oh, I have to go back into my notes. I'm not even gonna lie. We talked about eating fast, and somebody help me. We talked about processed foods and sugars were the first disruptors. The extra chemicals in the sugar and the processed foods really can disrupt your microbiome. And I'll have to go back to my notes to get the other one. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, here we go. Karen, thank you. Processed foods, medications, and stress. Karen, you're going to be my co-host next time. We're going to do this together. So those three, the medications that I had mentioned were antibiotics, because antibiotics, they don't discriminate against good bacteria and bad bacteria. So whatever you're trying to get rid of, it's going to get rid of that and some. And some other medications like your acid reducers, pain relievers, those ones can also disrupt your gut microbiome as well. And stress, like I had mentioned, when you're stressed, everything is really tight. Blood flow can't really get to your stomach, and your body is in this fight or flight mode versus like a rest and digest. So thank you. All right, Bronwyn, you're going to try to chew more and try to write down what you eat. Awesome. I'm telling you, when I had that session with that client, she literally told me, she's like, I didn't realize how much I was eating after my child. And it's those little snacks that you don't necessarily think of, right? Because, you know, you don't want to leave any food on the plate and you don't want to throw it out. So she was just going after her children and eating everything. And so she was eating her meals and then all the other things as she's cleaning up. So that's definitely writing it down and just taking notice. You're really able to see everything you're putting into your body. Okay, how long does it usually take to notice a difference when you start paying attention to your gut? Everybody's a little bit different, but I would say on average, 1 to 2 weeks. Some people as easy as 3 or 4 days. It all depends on what your baseline nutritional plan is. If somebody is mainly eating a lot of convenience foods or things that come with a box and a barcode all the time, and then switching over to more of like a whole foods plan, they will probably start feeling a difference within a week. The first 3 to 4 days, cravings might be a little bit loud, just because if you're used to more processed foods, it disrupts the signals to your brain and your gut. So your body's trying to just figure out what's happening. Then after a few days, those symptoms go away, the cravings really die down, and then you're able to really feel a difference. All right, Carol, we're going to be slowing down. Yes. I honestly have to remind myself to do this quite a bit, right? Because things are busy and we always want to multitask and triple multitask. And eating is one of the things where if you do have a lot of gut or inflammatory issues, slowing down is huge. It's huge. Hi, CN. What's my recommendation for reducing inflammation? That's a little bit broad and blanketed. So the big umbrella for reducing inflammation, if I were to pick the top three things, it would be focusing on your nutrition by reducing inflammatory foods like we talked about today. It would be focusing on your sleep, because that's when that's when our bodies, you know, de-stress and sort of filter out a lot of those inflammatory processes and detox at night. And I'd work on your stress. You know, taking some deep breaths before eating, taking like a mindful moment in the morning is what I would call it. And when you're starting to incorporate some of these lifestyle habits, I really like to express that it does not have to be a huge overhaul, which means if you're going to take a mindful moment, really take a mindful moment, 3 to 5 minutes to start. I don't want you to feel like you have to put in an hour every single morning for mindfulness. It literally can be 3 to 5 minutes of these sort of changes, and you'll start to see some changes happening. So those would be my top 3 to suggest. Thank you for the question. Okay, we have a lot of questions here. I'm moving through. Okay, so Joe Perry asked, is dairy like yogurt good for your gut health? I've heard that dairy causes inflammation. I love that you asked this question. Not everybody can tolerate dairy. My personal habits, I don't eat dairy. Dairy can be very inflammatory. So the best way that you can see if dairy is right for you is to just pull it from your diet and see how you feel. It usually will take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to really see if there's a difference when removing dairy from your diet. Some people who do tolerate dairy, usually like a full fat, whole milk, Greek yogurt, in that sort of realm is a better option. A lot of the yogurts that have all the extra fun stuff, like the fruit at the bottoms and the candies and things like that, usually those are packed with sugar. So the best thing that you can do is when you look at the label, flip it around and look at the ingredients that are in the back. Thank you for that question. That was good. Oh, yes. The tracker should be in there. When the tracker is built for a day, just so you can try it, and you can, make copies of it or keep it through, make it a writable PDF if you'd like, if you want to save it and upload it. But if you want to use the tracker to kind of keep things in line, or any, like I said, notebook, even the notes app on your phone, anything that way you can just see consistent patterns. Okay, we do have quite a few questions in here still for the production team. If we can go a little bit past 6:30, that would be great so I can get through some of these questions. And I'll make sure I can get the A-OK from everybody since we only have about 3 minutes left, but we'll keep going. Awesome, thank you. What about taking prebiotics or probiotics? So prebiotics, they're good. And I'm saying that blanketly because not everybody can tolerate prebiotics and probiotics. So instead of starting with a supplement, or what you can do, one of 2 things. If you were to take a prebiotic or a probiotic, take notice of how you feel. This is where that tracker comes in. If you feel worse taking a prebiotic or a probiotic, then I wouldn't take it and I would follow up because that means that there's something going on. So I'd reach out to figure out either from a local functional medicine person or myself or your PCP, to somebody do some extra testing on why you're not able to tolerate these pro and prebiotics. If you're looking for food options, vegetables are great. They're full of pre and probiotics. Your carrot, zucchini, any one of those vegetables, the good fiber, because the prebiotics are great because they actually feed the good bacteria. So prebiotics are where your ticket is. Thank you for that question, Nanette. Okay, we have the links in there and the Facebook page. Patricia asked, GLP-1 and slow digestion and constipation, any suggestions? Patricia, I have so many. I don't know if we can cover them all in the Q&A. But GLP-1s, they slow everything down. And when everything's slow, then you're going to have constipation. The top 2 things I would say is hydration and movement. There's other things that you can do as far as motility agents to keep things moving. Ginger is a great one. So even in the morning, some ginger tea, a little squeeze of lemon, it's warm, kind of wakens your digestive system saying, okay, it's time, let's start getting moving. But those would be my top 3 suggestions that I would say as far as slow moving and digestion. And absolutely follow up with your PCP or whoever's prescribing the GLP-1 for other suggestions as well, because that's a blanketed issue with some of those medications. Are fermented foods carcinogenic? I feel like I have a follow-up question with that one. If there's any specific one that you're thinking of. I haven't come across any research that says that fermented foods are carcinogenic. I'd be curious to see if you do have something about that specifically. So that one I'm not too sure. Some cottage cheeses include active cultures so you can get calcium, protein, and support your gut health. Oh, that was a comment from Sharon. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, Mary Anderson. You guys are awesome. Gut health destroyed. Oof, gut health destroyed by a colonoscopy prep. How long to build it back? So your microbiome is so individual from, between you and somebody else. And if the preps wipe everything out, and so then it's building back in. And a lot of ways that you can do that have to do with your vegetables. So I would start with cooked vegetables. Cook those down because they're easier to digest. So whether that's in a soup or in roasts, as far as, roasting them in the oven, cooking them on top of the pan, even blending them down into a smoothie. So pre-breaking it down, that way your body can absorb it. But that's absolutely where I'd start to sort of re-inoculate that. I'm just checking my time. Okay. All right. Joe, let's see what you got. What throws your gut off? Okay, processed sugar. Oh, you're just adding in. Thank you. Joe's in for my second assistant for the next episode, next co-host. Do I have a favorite kombucha? I do. I'm very visual. That's why I closed my eyes because I remembered the label. I want to say it's called Hum, I believe. I got it from Costco. And it's great, especially when it's on sale. I want to say there's 8 grams of sugar in this because some of them you have to be careful. Some of the kombuchas have up to 30, 40 grams of sugar, which is like having a can of soda. So, and ironically, because processed foods and sugars can disrupt your gut, now they're in this kombucha, which is supposed to be helpful for your gut, which is why it's very important to read those labels. That way you can see which is really going to be helping you versus just taste good and it's going to act like another soda. But that is one of my favorites. And there's, I think Kavita also has, some of them are a little like 10, 12 grams of sugar. So you just need to watch those. But I like to stay under 9, 8 if you can find one. Thanks for that, Cynthia. Okay, Lillian asks, how can we elevate the quantity? Wait, how can we evaluate the quantity of sugar in the kombucha? Doesn't it all have sugar? Oh, so then that kind of goes back to it. Yes, it does, but then some of them have added sugar. So then if you look at the ingredients in the kombucha, you'll see what's there, and then you will even see an additional cane sugar or an additional, I don't know, agave nectar or something else. So look for the actual sugar sources in the ingredients. What is a good kefir? What is a good for constipation? Amy asked about kefir. So the kefir yogurt, the one that I see is just the plain kefir. That's the one that some people that I have encountered with use. And as far as a constipation question, that's another loaded question from a gut girl myself, only because there's many reasons why somebody could be constipated. So the first thing that we would say is hydration and movement. Those things keep things moving. But then some people could be constipated because they don't have enough good bacteria or they have too much bad bacteria, or it could be a motility issue like the GLP-1. So the first thing that I would honestly say would be, well, what is your dietary intake like as far as your vegetables and your fiber and your hydration and movement? That's where I'd probably start. To view the previous parts of the series, there should be links in there with AARP's website, JEG's website. There's the links for the replays, and I will be loading them onto my YouTube and my website as well. So they'll be at multiple places. And I think JEG's YouTube also, correct? I believe so. There, and all the links are in the chat. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to get through the majority of these questions. Is gut health just about digestion, or does it really affect other parts of your body too? It affects everything. Everything. We talked about inflammation before. Next week, or not next week, I always say that on a Tuesday. Thursday, we're going to be talking about hormones, your insulin, cortisol, thyroid, sex hormones, and how it all plays in with your gut health. So it's like a big, beautiful umbrella that affects pretty much every system in your body. Okay. Barbara, chronic constipation, what might be something your body might be trying to tell you? Also have lost 60 pounds on purpose. Well, congrats on the 60 pounds on purpose. That's awesome. Deserves a moment there. As far as chronic constipation, I'm wondering what your ratio of good bacteria and bad bacteria could be, if somebody with chronic constipation and motility. So then usually when motility, as far as like how well things are moving through your gut, if that is slow, there's usually also something else that's going on that's slow as well. So those are usually the two first places that I start looking with chronic constipation. Any thoughts on over-the-counter digestive enzymes from E. Adams? I would have to take a look at the one specifically. What you're looking for, usually they're digestive enzymes. They're broken down into three different ones. There's your lipase, your protease, and your the one to break down your fat for your steatocrit. I'm blanking on the last one. So look at the digestive enzyme, because depending on what you need help breaking down will depend on which one you need. So some enzymes give you a little bit more boost to break down your proteins, some your fats, some your carbohydrates. And usually through testing, we can figure out, okay, you're breaking down your fats, but you're not breaking down your proteins. So then we need these kind of digestive enzymes. So the biggest ticket would be if you are going to try a digestive enzyme, that's when that tracker comes into play. Take notice on how you feel before and how you feel after. If there's really no difference, then that enzyme may not be the one for you, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. What do I think about fasting? You guys are giving me all the good ones. Fasting, it all depends on who I'm talking about. If I'm talking to a female, we're cyclic, meaning our hormones fluctuate, and there's certain times that are better in our cycle to fast than other times. If I'm talking to a gentleman, you guys aren't cyclic. You guys can fast whenever. I personally don't recommend anything more than like a 12-hour fast, because then that's when we can get into cortisol issues and hormone disruptors. Um, Depending on who you talk to, they're going to have their different opinion on fasting or not. Personally, I don't recommend fasting off the bat, because a lot of people, number one, usually are under feeding. So they're malnourished that way. And so adding fasting just kind of extends that. And at least a lot of people that I work with have a lot of stress and hormonal disruptions, and fasting just adds to that. So again, that's a little bit of a layered question. So it all depends. I just need a little bit more information to back up which, fasting, yay or nay. All right, I have 2 more minutes. Let's see. Do I have 2 more minutes or do I have more time? Okay. Now, don't forget the links that are in here. I'm passing through the links to register for Thursday, and next week is our last week. And next week's going to be awesome. We have a sleep expert that's going to be joining us. And then on next Thursday, it's going to be wrapping it all up and putting together a good plan. And there's also going to be a survey for this episode as well. So please fill that out. It's really important and so awesome for you to do. Thank you. Amy is going to stop multitasking and slow down. I'm sorry, you're not on Facebook. I got to put a pin on that to see how we can kind of pull in a little bit more people who are not on the Facebook. But yes, slowing down is a great way to start. And let's see, we talked about this. I think I'm seeing some of these through. Let me pop into here. All right, I think I got through pretty much. Okay, Jennifer Bollinger, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. What about using coconut sugar, low glycemic index? So whether it's coconut sugar or agave nectar or honey, your body's still going to process it the same way. It may be processing it a little bit easier, or you may not have a big glycemic spike. The biggest thing with sugar is what you're pairing it with. Like carbohydrates, what are you pairing it with? So you're going to have a bigger glucose spike if you eat a plain banana versus eating a banana with some almonds or banana with some peanut butter. You need to pair it with something. So if you're adding coconut sugar to your tea, but there's no like coconut milk or like a fat or something to kind of bring it down, you're still going to have a spike in your glucose, regardless if it's, honey or coconut sugar. I get that question a lot, actually. All right. Oh, good. Thanks, AK. I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed this session. I'm so glad that still 113 of you guys were hanging out with us on a rainy Tuesday here in Jersey. But please fill out the survey. Make sure you register for Thursday. And you guys have a great night. Thank you so much.